All right, welcome to Real Estate Hustlers Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Appleman, founder and CEO of Appleman Capital. Today we are joined with Jay Basega. Jay transitioned from software engineer to real estate, founding Ursa Capital and acquiring $5 million in assets before 30. Without a family background in entrepreneurship, he's venturing on himself. Jay, we appreciate you coming on the show today. If you could let us know a little bit more about yourself.
Absolutely, Josh. Thank you for having me on the podcast. I've been looking forward to this one since we connected. Just a little bit more about me. So I still am a software engineer, but really, I think the relationship there is that I had a midlife crisis earlier than anybody else I know. So at about age 27, I had a midlife crisis. Most people don't. I mean, maybe I'm just an old soul or something. Most people, it gets pushed out a little bit, but I was like, you know what? This is not this kind of like climbing the corporate tech ladder thing. This is not really what I want out of my life. I guess I kind of assumed it would automatically lead to some like cool Silicon Valley type tech nerd unicorn founder type thing. You have to remember, this is just a product of when I grew up. I grew up in the early 2010s, HBO, Silicon Valley, that kind of thing. That was kind of the cultural zeitgeist that I came up in. And I just realized, you know what? There are other ways to do this. And honestly, like this, I hope, tell me if this makes me sound arrogant. I really hope it doesn't. People say that real estate creates a lot of dumb millionaires. And I thought, you know what? If all it takes is just the willingness to do things that other people won't, then we can do this. So I took the money I had. I bought 6 units in my first year. Immediately ran out of money and expertise. So I decided, you know what? I need to make this not the Jay does everything himself show and bring on partners. So I joined the Jake and Gino community, started learning, started networking, didn't do any deals for a year. And then got into my first commercial multifamily deal last year in the summer.
Yeah, no, that's real estate's forgiving. I think if you buy real estate right, you make your money on the buy. It's forgiving. If you ever buy on the real estate, then there's nothing that can be done besides time, and that's if you have enough time to make it work. That's just because your cost basis is everything. Because if you sell it if you overpay for it, then you got to wait for the market to appreciate enough to even make money off it. So
that's right.
As far as making dumb millionaires out there, I think that can come in many different forms by doing things dumb in real estate or accidentally buying a property that is in the right area at the right time with a up and coming market. I mean, a lot can happen in real estate. But picking a path first and foremost is the most important. And I say that is what kind of real estate are you going after? Is it strip centers? Is it industrial? Is it warehouse? Is it
it's apartments? Yeah,
exactly. So you picked your path, and then that ultimately enables someone to dig deeper. Go a mile deep instead of a mile wide.
Oh man, man, we could talk about that all day because like I know a lot of people, not a ton that I'm close to, but a bunch of people that I met in 2021, 2022 who were like, yeah, bro, this multifamily thing is really popping off. I gotta get in on this. And then once things started to get a little less comfortable, they were like, I think I'm gonna go do something else. Like,
yeah, no, and that's when it gets better. I mean, right now it's a great time to buy if you can, with all of the elements to the market. But real estate's on discount right now, so it's got to buy right though. You got to buy right. Go in and find problems and seek opportunity. So how are you managing your engineering career with real estate right now? What does that look like?
Yeah, so really it looks like I have a 9 to 5. I have W-2. I'm on my lunch break right now. And I just rely on other people. I leverage the time of other people. And so this involves a couple levels, right? The whole Robert Kiyosaki, using other people's time, other people's money. My investors are using my time because I put the time into learning and connecting with people and vetting deals. Whereas, I'm not ever going to be a solopreneur. I don't think, just because there are things that not only do I not have time for right now, but I'm just not good at or I don't like doing. So asset management is one of those things. I will be the first guy to say, like, I'm not an asset manager. I spend time hanging out with asset managers so that I can, do deals with them. So really where that intersection is just, you make time for what you make time for. That's the reality. And right now, at least in the season of life I'm in, I'm playing a long game. So will I leave my W-2 sometime in the next few years? Yeah, most likely. But right now I'm just building my family's future.
Yep, and connections, relationships, and education,
Mm.
the whole gamut. So you're building relationships with potential retail investors, and then you're also vetting operators.
Yep.
What areas are you all looking to invest in, and then what do you look for in an operator?
Right. So market is really downstream of the kind of metrics I want to hit. So when you talk about stuff that is extremely risk adjusted right now, you're thinking of stuff that you can get long-term debt on. So 5, 7, 10-year notes that aren't like the shorter term bridge notes that come due in 18, 36 months. I think really right now what makes a team stand out is, I mean, it's a couple things, right? It's track record, it's the ability to to deliver on promises in the past, but it's also just being cognizant of what makes people tick and what makes investors tick right now, what they want to see. I mean, I know that in the family office space, they're extremely risk wary right now. So, you kick that down a couple levels. That's how I feel the average retail investor is feeling right now. If I can say to somebody, look, I invest in places where I can get long-term debt. Like one of my coaches, Bill Ham, always says, he's like, I got a standing offer for any piece of real estate that'll give me a 1.25 DSCR. Like that, that's kind of the attitude that he has. That's how he operates. And so my focus is like, I'm looking metrics first. I want to do right by my investors first, and then after that, it's just focusing on experienced operators. So that means Midwest right now: Cincy, Columbus, Kansas City. Those are markets that provide the kind of metrics I'm looking for.
Yeah, yep, definitely steady Betty markets, solid job growth, no erratic upswings, downticks in population. Yeah, I totally agree. We're out of Cincinnati ourselves.
Nice.
So you started learning how to underwrite, learning the lingo, learning the connecting the dots. What does what on different metrics?
Yeah.
How did your first deal come along, and what was the process? What did it look like?
Sure. So I think the key to I try to have the tagline, like I've acquired 5 million real estate under 30. I think the key there is really just finding the right leverage, and that can be a negative word, but really what I mean is like finding the right place that you add value. So when I looked at trying to get into my first multifamily deal with an experienced operator, I was like, okay, what do I have here to bring to the table? And this is really anybody listening to this who is looking to get into their first commercial multifamily or just commercial deal, anything that you can't basically support yourself. This is super, super important because having those leverages, having those value points that I could bring to the table was crucial in getting me on this GP team. So I'll explain what I mean. So I did some of the capital raise. I said, look, I can do investor relations. You don't want to have to deal with investors. Let me be the liaison, the go-between. Let me create content. And it was still, the team was still kind of waffling. Like the KP was like, yeah, at the same time, we can do all that ourselves. I was like, look, all right, I like this. I like this deal. I like this team. And I want to be on it. So here's what I'm going to do. So I went down to to my bank where, I had a line of credit open, and I was like, look, I need you to print me out some checks. They're like, okay, how many? Like a whole book of checks? I was like, I only really need one, but whatever the minimum you can give me of checks is. So they gave me like 5 checks or something like that. I had a call with the KP, a guy named Wakefield Lee. Totally worth connecting with him on. He's on a bunch of social platforms. He's an awesome guy.
I talked to him.
Yeah, Wakefield is a great dude. I had a call with Wakefield, and he was like, all right, well, here's the needs that we have for this deal right now. It's a lot of at-risk capital. So I was like, all right, this is where we add the value. I said, look, Wakefield, if you just say I'm on this deal, give me, a good percentage of this equity. I don't need cash flow right now. This is a long game for me, and I want to start building my track record. So let me on this deal, and I'll, how much do you need right now? He's like, probably 75,000 of, non-refundable stuff. I was like, great. So I literally, in front of him, I wrote the check for 75,000. I said, Wakefield Lee on it. And I put it up to the camera. I was like, this is yours. You just have to say that I'm on board right now. And he was like, yeah, that's honestly, yeah, that's what we need. Like, this is exactly what we need. So finding those synergies, which is such an overused kind of weasel word, but finding the places where you fit in and you can provide something that other people can't or won't. Not a lot of other people want to, especially, a lot of LPs that want to be GPs. The reality is sometimes you just got to jump off the cliff. Like, writing a check for $75,000, and actually I ended up taking more out of that line of credit in order to get the deal closed. That was a jumping off the cliff moment, because if the deal didn't close, that's all gone. I'm now on the hook for 6 figures of money. And so that's kind of the story of how I got into this deal. It was kind of a wild ride. We ended up closing 30, 60 days after we planned, but we've been operating it for 9 months now.
Did you all continue to raise after you closed?
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, it was a tough year, man. Real tough.
A lot of things were changing for sure. Debt markets were changing, and then everyone was pulling back. There's a lot of people that still are sitting on the sidelines, just waiting. I mean, it's election year as well, so there's different different things. But if you just stick to it, let time take over, just buy right and buy in areas where there's always a need. It just depends on how big the need is, but that's what old adage: don't wait to buy real estate. Buy real estate and wait. And, it's what we do. It's part of it. What's the overarching plan for your career in real estate? Is it to continue raising capital, to go on the operating side, just keep expanding your horizons? What's the long game?
It's a great question. I just want to keep raising capital. I like talking to people. I like making videos. I like making podcasts. I'll plug that later if you'll allow me. But that's in my wheelhouse of what I enjoy doing and what I can continue doing without burning out. So yeah, raise more capital. Eventually I'd like to get to the point where I can just, I remember I was listening to a recent episode. I think it was of this podcast. You talked to the securities lawyer, right? Yeah. So that was a great listen. Anybody who's listening to this, go back and listen to that, because that's super, super big, talking about syndications. But he says he talks to all these LPs who want to be GPs, and they're like, oh yeah, I got LP positions in like 20 different deals, and now I want to be a GP. And he's like, why? Like, what I want to do is I want to make other people a lot of money, make myself a lot of money in the process, so I can just be entirely passive. I mean, my wife and I, we get together and we sit down and say, okay, what are our real long-term goals? Like, what do we really want from our life in the next 5, 10, 15 years? And we determined that with my business, what we eventually want is 2 things. One, we want it so I can have enough time to just be with our kids and have tons and tons of flexibility, be able to do anything with family we want to do. And number 2, to be able to just, 3 things. 2, to be able to write music whenever we want to. We're both musicians. We're both artists, songwriters. And we don't want to have to depend on that as an income stream. We just want to be able to make the art we want to make, be extra creative. Rick Rubin talks about that in his new book. He's not paying me to say that, but his new book is this, I think it's called The Art of Being Creative, something like that. But he talks about so, like, if you can free yourself of the need for something, of the need for sustenance or money, then you can be in a place where you can really, really hit your creative stride. So that, and we just want to be able to give away $1 million a year. That's honestly
charity of your choice, and that's a good goal. It really is. It can change lives. I think you're referring to Gene Thorobridge. He's been doing it. He's put the legal docs together on some of the biggest syndicators out there, including like Grant Cardone. I mean, he's just a massive amount of knowledge. So he's definitely someone to listen to, and his books, and just to sharpen the edge on just where you're at. Syndication, you're creating a security, so you've got a duty and responsibility to be up and up on anything that might come your way when creating security and questions that your investors have. It's hard to keep up with it. It's a lot of knowledge you have to ingest, but
Yeah.
It's even distributions to keeping everything in the all communications and the investor portals and making sure everyone's aware of different things that are happening with the investment. It's a lot, but at the same time, that's what we sign up for. So there's a trade-off. They're investing to invest, and essentially they're leveraging your time so that they can go on and do other things too. So,
Josh, you want to know what I'm grateful for on that front?
What's that?
I'm grateful that I am coming up in a time when there's so many resources online. Like the amount of I was just this morning, we're getting ready to reviewing Q1 distribution stuff. I was just reviewing the the numbers on Cashflow Portal. Shameless plug, go check out Cashflow Portal if you're a syndicator. My buddy Perry Zhang runs it. He's they're just incredible team. They built such a great platform that makes it so easy to just, if you have the basically the guts to do syndications and to do right by your investors, they make it so easy. Like I can't even imagine how much money they're saving us.
Well, the communications and then just uploading the documents and dispersing the K1s and distributions of funds, plug it in, everyone gets theirs per rata. It's and keep track of that. So no, it enables you to do even more with less, because the amount of Gene got in, and we're on the same topic. Gene was handwriting K1s.
That's
and,
right.
That's how he was filing it. I could imagine that'd be just such a daunting task. But that's how it was done, and that was the bottleneck of how scalability it was back in the day. But wild. Getting back to the area, are you all focusing? So the Midwest, is it value add? Is it are you looking for what kind of class, and then what are you looking for in properties?
Value add C2B is that's right in the click. It could take a little bit lower, like C plus, or it's like C getting into C plus. Really, we just want to be able to. Well, my focus is on people that whatever your business plan is. Have you done it before? Have you been in the market for a few years? But I find that you can get the higher cap rates on the C2B conversions. Huge cap rate deltas on that too.
Yeah, you've got more burn off though on bad debt. That's you get some can tip below workforce housing, and then you get a lot of you just got to take into account. But the cap rates need to be more in order to for the burn off. But it's tougher to operate. CapEx, but yeah, the returns can be much greater versus a core.
And just like anything, it's a question of systems, right? Like you can, I utterly failed as a house flipper because I didn't have systems. If I had to go back and do it again, I don't think I would, but that would be the first thing I'd start with is like, okay, let's not fly by the seat of our pants here. Let's figure out what the process is and then execute on it. Like that's everything. Operations is everything, Josh.
Yeah, operations and network, because ultimately you've got to have your reno crews. You've got to be able to talk the language. Your vendors lined up for materials. Network. But you can, instead of starting from scratch, you find somebody who's already got the infrastructure built, and then, like you'd said, come in and add some value. And you've got your implementer, and you've got your visionary. And if you can have those two at the top, I mean, that's how a lot of these companies scale so quickly.
Yeah.
But great. If somebody wants to, actually, I want you to plug in your podcast. Absolutely, people need to go and get knowledge, and they have to tune in to YouTube, to podcasts, wherever the knowledge is.
I appreciate you, man. Yeah. So I decided that a lot of people are creating such great value, like you are, Josh. Just interviewing people, talking about success and how to find it. And I was like, that's awesome. I'm going to take the entire opposite tack. So I just today we dropped episode 1 of the podcast Bad Deals. You can visit baddealspodcast.com. Look for Bad Deals on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, a bunch of other platforms. and we just talk about just challenges and trials and money losses of various kinds. I mean, I start by talking about the house flip, but man, how many episodes we taped so far? 7. And we're getting into a bunch of deals that had to be walked away from, giant losses on the GP side. Like we were talking about, at risk capital, it's actually at risk.
Yeah.
And just huge lessons from that, like getting an MBA basically for that's the price of admission in that kind of failure. So
Through experience, yeah, for sure.
yeah.
And I think your show's gonna be busy in the upcoming years. I'd
Oh
say
man,
there's gonna be a lot of learning lessons.
hey, from your mouth to God's ears, my friend.
Yeah,
let's
unfortunately,
do
it's
it.
just the way that goes back to buying the properties right. You overpay and it just
Yeah.
chases you. So, but very cool. And that's going to be lessons learned. So instead of learning the hard way, tune into your podcast and learn from other people's experiences.
Yeah. Do not make these mistakes. Learn from the people I have on, and it's also great for the people I have on. It's like you want to demonstrate your expertise to people, show them how you fail. I don't trust anybody who won't tell me a time that they royally screwed up.
Yeah.
It's just it's an experience thing.
If you can lose money, lose your own money, go out there and figure out how to make your own money back, then and only then you can ask someone else for their money.
Yes, absolutely.
So that's good. If somebody wants to reach out, learn more about yourself, possibly invest alongside of you, how can they reach out?
Yeah, so you can. I'm mostly on LinkedIn. I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. Go. It's Jay Bisaga, JayBisaga, and that's probably where you're going to get the most response. You can also email me at jay@ursacapital.com. That's ursa-capital.com. If you go to that website, we have an investor club. You get access to see deals. I'm excited for this year because we don't have anything. I don't have anything in the pipeline right now. I'm still, honestly, I'm looking for things that'll make it stand out even more than even just the good, the great returns and the risk mitigation. But you have access to the deals. You have access to education, huge part of this. So yeah, check that out, and hit me up. I'd love to talk. Even if we wouldn't be good partners together, I'd still like to help people. I think that's important.
Awesome. Cool. Jay, we appreciate your time today.
Yeah.
Look forward to following you, and we will certainly talk soon.